And welcome back to the show, everybody. Tonight I am joined by one of Philly's best litigators. Heather Hansen is here in New York tonight on set, and you also read his stuff in Forbes, and you listen to him on Sirius XM Radio, and you see him here on the Daily Wrap almost every day. Talk about a hat trick. Rick Unger, everybody. And finally, she is a noted author, journalist, and contributor to the Huffington Post. Reverend Jenny Crumpton is back. Thanks for being here. Good to be back. Welcome all. Let's get to the Daily Download. Well, President Obama is in the middle of a three-day summit on how to combat extremism. The goal of the summit? To find a way to combat radicalism. As we've noted before on this show, the White House refuses to call the radicals what they are, Islamic. Eric Holder, at a speech yesterday at the National Press Club, defended the White House decision to not bring religion into the mix.
We spend more time talking about what do you call it, as opposed to what do you do about it. You know, I mean, really, if Fox didn't talk about this, they'd have nothing else to talk about, it would seem to me. You know, radical Islam, Islamic extremism, I'm not sure an awful lot is gained by saying that. It doesn't have any impact on our military posture, doesn't have any impact on what we call it, on the policies that we put in place. What we have to do.
I don't think I've seen those glasses before on Mr. Holder. Anyway, meanwhile, former Secretary of Defense Donald Rumsfeld told Greta Van Susteren last night on Fox News, you can't ignore religion.
But when you systematically kill Jews and kill Christians and say that's what you're doing, it's not random. It's purposeful. And it seems to me a lot of the country is still in a state of denial about it. And the only way you can deal with something like that is to put it up on the table, call it what it is, deal with it, and any idea that you can defend everywhere, at every moment of the day or night, against every conceivable technique, is simply wrong. If you try to defend everywhere, you defend nowhere. The only way you can deal with it is to go after those people.
Okay, so no matter which side you're on, we are at war with extremists who happen to be Islamic radicals. Either way, Eric Holder, yes, he's all over it.
Well, use an extreme example, perhaps unfair. In World War II, if a reporter had found out about the existence of the Manhattan Project, is that something that should have been disclosed? Now, we're not in a time of war, I understand, and I said as an extreme example, but I think there is a question that members of the press should ask about whether or not the disclosure of the information has a negative impact on the national security of the nation.
It kind of has a low tone there, but did the Attorney General just say we're not at war? Didn't the President just ask for authorization from Congress to go after ISIS? Maybe I misheard our Attorney General. Control Room, can you play that clip again?
No, we're not in a time of war, I understand, and I said as an extreme example.
State Department has their act together. Here is spokesperson and Pledge Week chairwoman Maria Harf.
Well, I think it just underscores for people that this isn't just a fight in Iraq and in Syria, and that it's not just a fight about dropping bombs on terrorists. It's really how we stop the causes that lead to extremism in a place like Libya. The fact that there's no governance and there's no opportunity for young people, it lets groups like ISIL grow there and flourish there, which is what you saw with this awful situation with these Egyptians that you just...
Conservative media, you can imagine, pounced on that hanging curveball. We'll discuss Harf's comments in a moment, but either way, seems to make sense that the American people don't trust this administration when it comes to handling ISIS. According to a CNN ORC poll released on Monday, 57% disapprove of the president's handling of the Islamic State in Iraq and Syria, or ISIS, and his foreign policy in general. Rick Unger, your thoughts?
There's a lot there to take in. Look, actually agreed with a lot of what a lot of people were saying, strangely enough. I do understand the point that the Attorney General was making, and by the way, the comment about we're not at war, he later came out and corrected it. He says, I do understand we're at war with ISIL.
What do you think he was talking about, more of a conventional war?
I think, well, first of all, understand that that section of his speech dealt with something entirely different. He was talking about press freedoms. Right. So you got to be careful not to conflate it. I think he just misspoke and he corrected it. So there's that. I know people like to talk about that. Look, we are having a problem with this administration. People are not comfortable. The polls are making it clear. What the polls aren't yet making clear, with all of these distractions about what they say, the words they use, nobody's telling us what they think we should do about it.
But it's more than a distraction. If you don't know their motivation, you don't know how to go after it.
Let's say we do. What do we do about it?
Well, you change, when you know their motivation, if you think the motivation is money and a lack of opportunity, then you go after it the way that President Obama has proposed, and going after these people with Twitter and trying to create opportunity and create jobs. But if you know that the motivation is a religious motivation, then you have to go after it from a religious...
If you heard his speech today, he made it very clear that he understands that it is a twisted religious.
He's getting there. He said he did not say we're at war with Islam.
But let's assume that he knows. Let's just, for the sake of argument.
But he won't say it.
What do we do? Yeah, he won't say it. He knows though. What do we do? Let's go there.
I think we're doing what we need to be doing right now, where we have the Kurds who are really doing a good job in Iraq right now. They've been pushing back. We've got airstrikes going on. We're thinking about arming some of the Syrian rebels. We're going in the right direction. This is a two-pronged war, and it's something unlike anything we've ever done before. And I think Harf is absolutely right. There's a little-known secret if you work for an NGO, which there are so many around the world in MENA and different regions where the conflict is, it is an issue of poverty, economics, and ideologies that get...
Not entirely. Look, almost all of the bombers of 9/11
I said two-pronged.
came from wealthy families.
Right.
That's part of it.
But they take poor people and uneducated people and
it.
indoctrinate them into it.
I think it's two-pronged. I think
it's two-pronged.
Well,
there's two
well, what I
sides
mean
to
is that for some young recruits, it is about religion. I think for a lot of them, they're displaced, however, and they're just looking to join something. They want some meaning in their lives.
They need something for them. The religion is what provides that for them. It's not about money.
And
it's
so
about,
many
it's about
NGOs
faith,
are actually addressing
one at a time. One at a time.
So many NGOs are addressing the religious part of it, as well as poverty and economics.
Well,
so nobody's leaving that out.
But I think we have to. And I think when you ask what do we do, I think that the consensus among the brains who actually know these things are we need boots on the ground. And I think Americans are.
But that's exactly what ISIS wants.
To end it there. We'll have to end it with boots on the ground. We'll be talking about this, I have a feeling, for many, many nights for a long time. Coming up next, more comedy from the White House. This time, Vice President Biden gets cozy with a new cabinet member's wife. We'll show you that, plus what David Axelrod had to say. This is the Daily Wrap on Newsmax TV. Welcome back to the show. Okay, I have a quick disclaimer to share before we continue. This segment's going to be fun. Former White House senior advisor David Axelrod, you remember him. He's cashing in after working for the president by doing exactly what people do when they stop working for the White House, writing a book, of course. So currently Mr. Axelrod is touring the country, talking with Americans about his time at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. And guess what? Like a proud father, he is extremely satisfied with the Obama administration's accomplishments, including maintaining the dignity of the office.
And I'm proud of the fact that basically, you've had an administration that's been in place for 6 years in which there hasn't been a major scandal. And I think that says a lot about the ethical strictures, of this administration.
Wow, it was like the Daily Show audience was there, like, yes, that's right, no scandals whatsoever. Come again, no scandals. I think that the former senior advisor is having a Brian Williams moment and is misremembering certain events, Mr. Axelrod, because we here at the Daily Wrap know you're watching this show right now because we're live. I think you might need a little refresher, and here's what many might consider a scandal.
In every country, there are those who find different religious beliefs threatening. And that is what we saw play out in the last 2 weeks. As a crude and disgusting video sparked outrage throughout the Muslim world. Now, I have made it clear that the United States government had nothing to do with this video. It is an insult not only to Muslims, but to America as well.
I also want to take a moment to address the video circulating on the internet that has led to these protests in a number of countries. The United States government had absolutely nothing to do with this video.
A lot of bling on the former secretaries. Amazing. Anyway, well, Benghazi, yeah, that was kind of a big one, we'll say. But wait, there's more.
I first learned about it from the same news reports that I think most people learned about this. I think it was on Friday. This is pretty straightforward. If, in fact, IRS personnel engaged in the kind of practices that have been reported on and were intentionally targeting conservative groups, then that's outrageous. They have to be held fully accountable.
Oh, those tricksters at the IRS. But wait, I seem to remember something about a big party the Secret Service had in Colombia with, well, we'll call them female entrepreneurs.
Revelations tonight about that Secret Service scandal. The men trusted with guarding the president, hiring prostitutes in other countries.
Agents were preparing for the arrival of President Obama in Colombia. Some brought prostitutes back to their hotel.
And new charges this morning of a cover-up in a Secret Service scandal, the Colombia prostitution debacle in 2012. The Washington Post says the Obama administration knew of allegations that a White House volunteer brought a prostitute to his hotel room on that trip.
The lead investigator into the 2012 Secret Service hooker scandal is resigning after being caught, drumroll, with a hooker.
Mark Lamont Hill, good guy. Anyway, that was just a small sample of White House scandals, and who could forget Cash for Clunkers, the VA scandal, Fast and Furious, and last but certainly not least, Obamacare architect Jonathan Gruber saying the Affordable Care Act wouldn't be affordable, among many other things. Those were some doozies. So Heather Hansen, does Mr. Axelrod suffer from the same condition as Mr. Brian Williams?
I think they just use different vocabulary in the White House. So scandal isn't a scandal, and religion isn't religion, and this is not a war, according to Holder. And I think ultimately they're trying to step away from what the reality is. I don't think that he's misremembering it. I think he's choosing to control the message, and I think that's consistent with what this administration likes to do.
Rick Unger, a whole new kind of Ebonics.
Look, Axelrod. Axelrod was clearly asking for it and making that broad of a statement. Yeah, there have been some scandals. What I find fascinating in some of the choices we made is that one person's scandal is another person's policy decision. So I think you have to be careful. What amazes me is the one thing we didn't show is what I think was the greatest scandal, aside from the Secret Service, and that was, if you like your doctor, you can keep your doctor. That was an outright lie. That's a scandal. That's a scandal. And yet we're also focused on Benghazi, which when people, if they ever find out the truth, you won't think it was such a scandal. But that's another story.
So
for another day.
Just to hold you to that for a second.
Yeah.
Was it more ineptitude with Benghazi, as opposed to a cover-up, in your opinion?
No, it was neither. There were things going on in Benghazi that we're not supposed to know about. Not at the at the embassy, absolutely, but at the annex, that they couldn't sit there and tell you what was happening, and Americans should have been able to figure that out on their own. There are books coming, I'm well aware of, I know the story, and it was not a scandal. It was turned into one.
Well, Jenny, I know books are coming, but I have a feeling this won't be in yours, which will be coming out very soon, by the way. Thanks for the book party invite.
You know, look, every administration does this. I don't know why we're surprised. I mean, think about Reagan and the Iran-Contra scandal. Think about Bush standing on an aircraft carrier saying, "Mission accomplished."
He didn't say it, there was a banner.
No.
After sending...
And that wasn't a scandal anyhow.
After what was a scandal was sending troops into Iraq on false intelligence. This happens in every administration. No advisor is going to admit to it.
But I mean, the denial is the thing that's a problem. And the thing that amazes me is that the people in the audience clapped. So obviously they agree that this was a scandal.
Some laughed at him. First, some laughed at him.
Quiet little titters.
Yeah, and then they came back and clapped to support him. But it is interesting how we interpret scandals. You know, Jenny's point, I obviously hate what the Bush administration did with Iraq, but I wouldn't call it a scandal, actually. It's very bad policy. I don't think that they were honest, but it doesn't,
very bad decision.
To me, it doesn't feel like a scandal.
And we're still paying the price today for it.
Well, I'm with you on that. No disagreement, but is that a scandal?
I guess we'd have to ask Axelrod what his definition is of the word scandal.
Maybe we should ask Olivia Pope.
Or your definition of the word is, right?
Right.
There's plenty of places you could go with that.
Now you're getting into very clear,
or the definition of sex.
But Rick, the liberal argument is, at least with the IRS, that no one was arrested, there haven't been any convictions, Lois Lerner's on a beach somewhere earning 20%. Right. So they say, well, hearings were held and nothing turned up.
That's not a rationale, because maybe there should be arrests.
Right.
So you can't explain it away that way. Look, if the White House was not involved with the IRS situation, then you have to say it was an IRS scandal, which ultimately is an administration scandal. But it would be putting our heads in the sand to pretend that makes it a White House scandal.
Heather, quickly, what scandal do you think the White House will be remembered for most when it's all said and done?
This White House? It's hard to say. Fast and Furious is important for me. I think that the way Holder handled that, the way that he has handled a lot of these issues, is going to.
Jenny, one word answer.
The worst scandal of this administration? I don't think there's been a worst one. I think there's been a lot worse in the past.
And on that note, we leave it. Coming up next on the Daily Wrap, we're going to discuss the latest on the President Obama's immigration amnesty. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the show, everybody. I am Joe Concha, along with Rick Unger, Jennifer Crumpton, and Heather Hansen, who are nicely color coordinated tonight. Former Florida Governor Jeb Bush made a move to distance himself from his brother, President George W. Bush, as well as his father, George H.W. Bush, obviously a former president as well, last week during a speech in Chicago where the likely Republican candidate said this.
Look, just for the record, one more time, I love my brother. I love my dad. I actually love my mother as well. I hope that's okay. And I admire their service to the nation and the difficult decisions that they had to make. But I'm my own man, and my views are shaped by my own thinking and my own experiences. Each president learns from those who came before, their principles, their adjustments. One thing we know is this: every president inherits a changing world and changing circumstances.
Governor Bush went on to say that there were mistakes made in Iraq under his brother's administration. Rick, can Jeb separate himself from the bad branding that comes with being a Bush?
Well, first of all, I'm not convinced the branding's that bad. Even I am a fan of his father. I voted for him. How do you like that? The only Republican I ever voted for.
You didn't vote for Reagan, but you voted for George H.W. Bush?
Yes.
That's remarkable.
I think he was a great realist.
You didn't vote for Eisenhower?
So. Very funny.
Oh, no.
Rick.
So, you see, you threw me out there.
Sorry. Go ahead, sir.
So I don't think the branding problem is as bad as people think. I think we even have fonder memories of his brother at this point. That said, he said exactly what I would have written for him to say. He doesn't look very convincing, however, where he's saying it, which is a little weird. His biggest problem, though, is on the day he made this speech, he also published the list of his Foreign Policy Advisory Committee. It was everybody from his father and his brother's administration, including Paul Wolfowitz, and I don't know what he's thinking there.
But in some part, don't you think that if he didn't use those resources, I would have a problem with that? When you have this brain trust,
do you really want a guy who was fired or had to resign from the World Bank for a scandal?
There are some on that
Jim Baker?
list. There are some on that
Jim
list.
Baker's on the list. He's fine.
There are some on that list that you're going to like, and there are some on that list that you're not going to like. But the truth is, if he didn't go to those places, I would have a problem with that. When you have all these resources available to you and you choose not to
But when
use
Obama
them,
did it, you guys got crazy
because
about
he
him hiring
didn't
people
listen
from
to
Clinton.
them. He didn't listen to
His
them.
brother was criticized a lot for relying too heavily on so many of those people. So, this is kind of an Olivia Pope moment where he's getting out in front of the elephant in the room.
Explain to our audience.
That's your second
Scandal. We're
I
talking
know
about
who it
scandal.
is. Kerry
So,
Washington.
she's the ultimate PR guru. He's getting out in front of what he knows is the big elephant in the room that's going to keep people from voting for him. He wasn't all that strong in his speech, but I think if he continues to keep putting the same people on the roster, there's going to be questions. You can't say one thing out one side of your mouth, I am my own man, and then we know that he's going to be relying on the same people over and over again.
You know what bothered me about when he was making that particular statement, and obviously it's the most important thing for him to overcome, let's face it, because he had a good record in Florida. A lot of people like his stance on immigration and education and so on, and obviously he's much more articulate than his dad or his father was, at least publicly anyway. What bothered me was flipping of the page when he's making what's supposed to be passionate. I am my own man.
So he better learn to use the
am
teleprompter.
Yeah, use the teleprompter or let it be organic. But
Man.
right, kinda.
I think there were so many talking points in today's speech that were awesome. I think he did a great job at sort of talking about Hillary by talking about I'm not going to be one to press the reset button. I thought that was great. I thought it was great when he talked about this isn't hashtag diplomacy. I thought that was wonderful as well. And I thought his foreign policy conversation was really, really good. When it comes to the team that he's put around him, I do worry about bringing on younger people. You know, he brought on that chief technology guy who then had to resign. Right. I think he resigned, but you know, yeah, because he had to. But I think that's going to be the concern. It's great to surround yourself with old, smart men, but you also need young, exciting, energetic women.
Like George P. Bush.
Jet's problem is he's not a good politician. Luckily for him, neither is Hillary. Neither of them, they might both be very competent leaders, but neither of them are particularly good at politics.
I wonder if, from a media perspective, just being selfish, if a Bush-Clinton matchup would be best for lack of a better terms, ratings and entertainment. Because they're not, as you said, they're not very good candidates. They are not very sexy, right?
She's going to have no vetting. I mean, if somebody doesn't come up and really run against her.
Well, Huckabee's at the head of the polls right now for the GOP, which he always kind of edges up around this time. But I would like to see a little Huckabee in the mix.
You have
personally.
to admit, Hillary's had a
against
lifetime
Hillary.
of being vetted.
Right, but she's going to be stale. There's not. She won't have gone through it. She won't have gone through it. But I think she's going to be want to see Clinton Bush.
Hillary's going to be at a new level of authenticity, though. I think she's taken this time and she's really thought through why she wants to run for president. I think that's going to come through.
I don't know if that'll solve her problem.
No, but you know, she better hope so, because she's going to be coming into it against somebody who has really had a tough primary.
But
no matter
look
what.
at the photo. She's cultivating the Golda Meir look.
Well, there you go. Here's all you need to know, everybody. That for 28 of the last 36 years, we've had a Bush or a Clinton in the White House in some capacity. Right. And if they end up running up against each other, then, oh boy, talk about repetition. Anyway, coming up next, it's political potluck time. This is the Daily Wrap, only on Newsmax TV. And welcome back to the show, everybody. It's potluck time. This is the part of the show where each of us brings a story to the table, just as you would bring a dish to potluck dinner. Okay, Jenny, what are you serving up?
Okay, so here's what I want to know. If you had the chance to go to Mars and live in a colony there, would you go if you knew you could never come back?
Well,
so there's a nonprofit called Mars One in the Netherlands. They're selecting 4 people to send in 10 years and to Mars to start the first colony there. The problem is you can't come back. You know that going into it. You're there to start a community.
You better like the people you're going with.
Actually, I thought it was 25 people. If it's only 4, that makes it
4.
Ridiculous.
They've narrowed it down
You're
to 50 people.
going to spend the rest of your life with 4 people?
We see the colony going up here.
Well, they're the first 4.
There's 4.
There will be more that come
I hope so.
in the future. But they had 200,000 applicants. They've narrowed it down to 50 men and 50 women at this point. And there's 33 Americans who are still in the running. So
Here's the critical question. Do they have pizza delivery on Mars?
No, that's not the critical question.
I'm out.
The critical question is, can you get NFL Sunday ticket up there?
Oh,
right. Now, if you have satellites, I would think
maybe you can.
a little bit of a delay.
You have a pet rover. I mean,
when there's only
that'll
4
keep you
people there,
company.
you better
Is
be
that
able
a
to
German
do something.
Shepherd rover?
There will be more people coming, but that's the first crew is 4 people, and they have to go through a lot of very, difficult tests.
Sure, I saw Armageddon, where they had to go through Bruce Willis and the oil driller.
Bruce Willis is going to go.
That would be a good thing.
Well, these movies are still decent. But look, why would they just go one way? Why can't they come back?
Well, the whole idea is that they're starting a colony there to create life on Mars.
Right.
So you don't come back. You are moving to another planet.
Well, can't you plant your seed, so to speak, and then, all right, I'm done, and then...
No vacations,
people are
no
ready.
No vacations.
People are ready to leave their spouses behind
one woman
on Earth.
And her kids.
And so is a man who's in the running. He's down to the last 50.
Well, I'm glad that we have some people who are that passionate about space travel. It certainly isn't me, but it's great that we have some people who want to do it.
It's more to be historic, right? So you could say, hey...
Well, you
If you're
can't say,
that
hey,
person-
who are you
Moved
going
to
to say it
Mars
to?
and never came
Who are you
back.
going to say it to? The 3 people you're there.
Yeah,
That's my biggest problem. You have to spend the rest of your life with. What if you don't
Don't
like them?
I know.
Right. But some people, you know,
Good
they
point.
say
You
you
probably
have
won't.
only one
I'd
life.
kill 'em.
They're really interested in space, you
Well,
know.
that's what it has to
and
be.
so
There has to be passion.
for them, this is a lifetime dream. So.
You know how ridiculous it is, though, because it's not like they could go outside and play on Mars.
Right.
You'll be like, it's the same thing as being in here. It wouldn't
gonna
be
be
any
crazy.
different. It would be crazy. Would you go?
I don't think
Maybe
I would.
the 4 of us should
that's
go.
That's a really hard
Yeah,
decision.
we get along great. That would work out really well. Oh, boy. All right. Yeah, let's move on to our next potluck. And what are you cooking up, Heather?
So you see in the media today all this talk about Bruce Jenner and whether or not he's going to be charged with manslaughter for the car accident that he was in. And in the meantime, in Brooklyn, there is the most fascinating trial going on about the 2009 Al-Qaeda plot to commit terrorism in Manchester, Copenhagen, and here in New York City. The Brooklyn case is Loretta Lynch is the one who's prosecuting it. She's sitting in the courtroom. British intelligence officers are going to testify in disguise so that they can't be recognized. Yeah, in drag, really.
Yeah.
And on top of that, we're going to see documents that were found during the raid on bin Laden's compound that have never been seen before. And all of this is absolutely fascinating to me, and no one even talks about it. It just intrigues me where we go with our interest, and especially when it comes to court cases. I mean, this case, if I could, I'd be sitting there every day.
You would, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know if they'd let us in, but you're absolutely right, Heather. It's a fascinating case, and the elements of it, you couldn't make it up. You've got it exactly right.
Well, and on top of that, he's defending himself.
Yes.
And he's claiming that he was not looking to commit terrorism. He was not looking to hurt anybody. He was looking for a wife. And all this online activity that he was doing, because they use code names that are female names and code words like marriage instead of bomb.
They would identify. This is how they were using email to disguise their emails. They would identify the bomb he was planning to use by the woman's name.
Right.
He ended up choosing the Nadia.
Right.
Now who knows what the Nadia bomb was, but that is how they were doing this.
That's
And he was pretending to be a woman.
Right, which he said he was doing to draw in other women. So I'm not a terrorist.
But
I'm just
his
a
goal was to find a wife.
No.
No.
That's what his defense
was
is.
the code.
Oh, okay.
That's what his defense is.
It was
He's
actually
saying
code.
that I wasn't trying to commit terrorism.
a
I was
great
out there looking for a
defense.
woman. Yeah, and he's defending himself. So he's up there talking to this jury saying, I just wanted to find a wife.
Right.
That's all
You know,
that's going
to your
on
point,
here.
honestly, I think people will be outside the courthouse picketing because they think there's transgender people in there. You know, before they will actually pay attention to what's
the real
actually
You know what? They're going
happening.
to think it's the Chelsea Manning trial all over
Yeah.
again or something, right? I mean, that's a
Yeah, but
possibility.
Heather's right.
it's
It's
even
not getting
more-
attention.
It's
not.
even more
I had not
interesting
heard
to
of
me
it.
in some ways than the Boston bomber trial because it has so many different factors. And when you talk about these intelligence officers testifying in disguise, it's going to be fun to watch.
Either way, that defense isn't going to fly. I mean, everybody just blames Tinder when in these sort of
Yeah,
situations.
you love
That's where you get your wives,
Tinder,
people,
yeah.
or at least, Mrs. Right Now. All right, well, when we return, we will serve up more potluck, and then later, it's time for Yay or Nay, which is the new best part of the show. This is the Daily Wrap, and it's only on Newsmax TV. Welcome back to Daily Wrap, everybody. I am Joe Concha, and we are in the middle of our little potluck here, and this is the third course of 4. Rick Unger, what culinary masterpiece do you have for us?
Well, this is going to be one of my, I'm going to speak to the president. We have the camera here. Mr. President, time to chill out. I've liked the points you've been making about how we need to be sensitive to Muslims who are not terrorists. I get it. I got you what you were trying to say in your prayer book or your prayer meeting. I've got it. But you know what? Enough already. Because what's happening now is you're beginning to, in your effort to protect and defend Muslim sensitivities, which is fine, you're sticking your thumb in the eye of people who don't share your sensitivities. You made your point, it's time to go. What got me started on this, there was an article today that the president wrote, an op-ed in the LA Times, and I'm going to read this sentence. Efforts to counter violent extremism will only succeed if citizens can address legitimate grievances through the democratic process. What he's saying is terrorists have legitimate grievances too.
Yeah.
You know what? He may well be right about that, but you know,
That's what he said.
right now, enough.
Do you
Enough.
think that he is more interested in being a Nobel Peace Prize winner than a president?
No,
He's already won one.
I know, but that's the point. I
He
think
wants
wears
to?
that mantle, and part of the reason he won that award is because of the relationship with Muslims, and so I think that is his goal, and he cares less about acting as a president.
Well, I
Heather,
appreciate
I
his
think
fairness,
it's because
but it's enough.
he really understands that the more anti-Muslim sentiment there is in our country, and there is a lot right now, the more likely we are to have lone wolves who get really angry and
There are no
frustrated.
lone wolves.
And yes, there are. We see what just happened in Denmark
They're
and
not
Paris.
lone wolves. They're
but
part of a bigger thing. Let's not. Yeah.
It's a
Let's
term
call it
for
the truth.
someone who does a one-off act because they believe that they're connected with ISIS.
Rick,
or
would you say
other
that
terrorist
Nadal Hassan
organizations.
in Fort Hood was a lone wolf?
No, I wouldn't.
there's
He
been
was a
tons of them.
terrorist. He was a
The one in
terrorist
Canada.
who was a radicalized.
Radicalized, yeah.
He's a terrorist. Look,
And-
you
but
know,
we the terminology notwithstanding, he is very smart to continue to talk about the fact that we have to
No,
pull
he's not
our
smart
Muslim
to
brothers and
continue.
sisters together
He's
and
not
be
smart
part
to
of this
continue.
fight.
While he does that, Jenny, he's alienating the rest of us.
Right.
Why?
And that's because he does not speak at the prayer
What's so
breakfast.
alienating?
At the prayer breakfast, he says things that were done in the name of Christ.
So what?
But he does not ever say anything positive about the other religions. And then yet today, I don't know if I heard any mention of Christianity or Judaism. I heard a lot about the little Muslim girl.
Because that's the issue at hand right now.
No,
That's the big thing that's all
but
over
that,
the media.
wait, excuse me. Then you make the point. If that's the issue, then you can't forget. And by the way, I'm on his side of this. I'm sensitive to American Muslims' feelings and Muslims around the world also. I know that there are lots of them are awesome people. But that is the point. At a point, he has to remember that he is the president of all the
everybody.
United
Yes,
States.
yes.
And you can make the point to them and you can get them to hopefully think about it. But if you keep pushing that point to
the
excess,
exclusion of the others. That is the problem. It is not. We know how he feels about this, but that's not enough.
I'm just impressed that Rick is doing what I'm doing right now and address the president directly. Not only does Holder watch the Selwyn Axelrod, but apparently the president is watching Newsmax right now because they have DirecTV at the White House. I've heard that.
That's hardcore.
Anyway, it's my turn, and this is supposed to be a nice, light, friendly segment. Boy, you guys got nice and heated there. That was fun. So a San Diego couple goes goofy for Disney. That's right. Michael and Diane Greening of San Diego visited 3 different Disney parks on Valentine's Day. 3 different Disney parks. I thought there were only 2 in the country, one in Anaheim and one in Orlando. Oh no, they flew to Tokyo, Anaheim, and Orlando in one day. 28 hours to be exact, because Tokyo is 14 hours behind us. Let's take a look at some of the pictures there as far as the Greenings. Yes, there they are. I believe that's the Tokyo one, because that doesn't look familiar to me in any capacity. Do we have them anywhere else, guys? We probably have them. Yep, that's definitely the Orlando one. I've been there on several occasions, despite not having kids when I went, which was a little bit weird. And then finally, obviously, the one in Anaheim. So there you go. I may have done that slightly out of order. That's probably the one in Orlando. And it truly is a small world after all. And here's why I'm not impressed. All right, so you did 3 in one day. What about Euro Disney? Couldn't fly to Paris, could you? But who celebrates their anniversary like that? I got engaged at a little restaurant in Hoboken. So on our anniversary, we go back to Hoboken, and we're done.
Right.
That's it.
I
Flying
get
to Tokyo.
it.
You know what that must have cost? $15,000 to do.
But it's
Big love.
Disney. I get it completely. I spent my 40th birthday. I invited 40 of my closest friends, loaded them up on buses, and took them all to Disneyland.
Wow, did
What's
you?
so great
Wow.
about Disney? I've never understood adults
Have you been?
going to
Oh, I love
Disney.
it.
Yeah, when I was a kid.
It's fun as an adult. They've adultized it.
Yeah.
Oh, has it changed?
They have tequila
now?
and everything. It's great.
As
was
long
great
as they
then.
have tequila.
So
all
you'd
right.
go to Disney over Mars.
Oh, absolutely. I got to come home.
You were stuck with those 40
Or
closest
you
friends.
just go on Space Mountain.
Yeah,
and then
right. And
and the
you hit
rides are so
all
much
the-
better at Disney than Mars, I hear.
But if
it's
you
basically
could
the same
afford
thing.
that, I think I would have chosen something else.
Yeah, you know what I would have chosen? I would have chosen actually to Photoshop and say I was in Tokyo, and that would have been that. Anyway, coming up next, it's time for Yay or Nay. Find out what craziness we have after the break. This is the Daily Wrap, only on Newsmax TV. Welcome back to the Daily Wrap. It's time for Yay or Nay. I'm going to share some interesting stories with my esteemed panel, and they'll vote yay or nay. We keep things simple around here. Okay, let's get started. A-Rod, you know him as Alex Rodriguez, number 13 in your program, New York Yankees third baseman. He apologized yet again for his steroid use, but he didn't hold a press conference like everybody else does in these situations. Oh no, the star slugger wrote a handwritten letter to his fans, and it's getting a lot of attention, not for what was in it, but for the penmanship. Can we see this? My goodness gracious, no guy I know writes that neatly and so rounded. It's almost feminine in a roundabout sort of way. A-Rod thinking an entire controversy will go away with one handwritten note, yay or nay. Welcome to Yay and Nay for the first time, by the way, Jenny Crumpton. What do you think?
I think nay. It's like a bad breakup letter in 5th grade.
You got one of those, I have a feeling, or two.
I got so many.
Really? No, I figured you were the one writing it. That's what I meant.
No, but it's a ridiculous way to make an apology. We need face. We need face that
Agreed.
looks apologetic.
I'm saying nay because I saw a few places where he missed a comma.
Oh, very good point. Grammar is very key in these
Very key,
situations.
very key.
Heather?
I say nay. It reminds me of Lance Armstrong. Just come out, speak to the people, and say you're sorry. And even then, it might be a nay.
I say yay. I still cannot get over how neat that penmanship was. And it was so rounded. Everybody says that a handwritten note really goes a wrong way. And besides, when A-Rod speaks, no one's going to believe your word he says anyway.
Right.
So this story not going away, and the media horde will follow him to Tampa, I have a feeling. Anyway, while we're on the topic of apologies, Krispy Kreme in the UK had to issue an apology, you're going to love this, for their Krispy Kreme club. Why would you have to apologize for that? Well, that's because it's a club that's spelled with a K, making it Krispy Kreme Club, K-L-U-B, a promotion designed to get more kids into their stores during their half-term break. That's all well and good, but Krispy Kreme Club, try to say that fast 5 times, acronym, just happens to spell out KKK. Krispy Kreme claims they were unaware of their choice of acronyms. An internal investigation is currently underway. Krispy Kreme Club with a K, yay or nay, Heather?
Nay. I think that someone should have been thinking thinking it through a little bit better.
There was no KKK in the UK.
Exactly. I'm going to give it a nay with an asterisk because there is no KKK in England. Why would they think of it?
You're fascinating. Last night you had an I don't care, and now you have an asterisk with your nay.
We got to expand on the concept.
Executive orders and yay and nay, amazing.
Yeah,
Jenny?
yeah.
Nay, nay, people, come on. I mean, that's ubiquitous. Everybody knows better than to name something KKK.
Not everybody.
I don't care where they are.
I'm going to go nay, 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 just because in the UK, the KKK didn't exist, and why should they be responsible for our sordid history? Anyway, Condoleezza Rice is leading in the polls as a replacement for retiring U.S. Senator Barbara Boxer of California, the most liberal state in America, according to a new field poll released on Wednesday. Ms. Rice currently has 49% of the vote. Rice as a California senator, yay or nay, Rick Unger?
It's fascinating. You have to remember how elections happen now in California. It's no longer a Democratic nominee and a Republican. They take the top 2 people of the entire vote and they run against each other. I think that would be an awesome race to see Condi Rice and Kamala Harris.
Wow. Jenny, would she be better off maybe as a vice presidential candidate, or since everybody else is running for president of the Republican Party, maybe aim a little bit higher?
I don't know. That's up to her. I say yay for Condi generally. She's a smart woman. She's an Alabama girl. I think she's got a good head on her shoulders. She's very moderate.
And
I'd like to see her in any position.
As long as you don't spell her name with a K, it's with a C. Condi, Heather Hansen, quickly.
I think she's fabulous. I think that she would be good for California, and I think it's great that such a liberal state is actually considering it.
Excellent. I am a yay as well. Big fan of Ms. Rice, and if she doesn't get that job, she'll probably be the next NFL commissioner. Well, get a load of what Vice President Biden did yesterday during the swearing-in ceremony for the new Secretary of State, Ashton Carter. Guys, before you play this, I think this clip needs a little mood music. Can we get some there in the control room? That's nice. Okay, so the Vice President, as you can see, has his hands on the shoulders of the wife of Ashton Carter, and she doesn't seem all that comfortable with the situation. Her face expression basically doesn't change until Mr. Carter, her husband, actually comes in, where Biden then puts his hands behind his back. Joe just being Joe. So the Vice President sexually harassing women, question mark, yay or nay, Rick Unger?
Nay, lay off of the poor guy. Oh, he was being fatherly. He whispered something in her ear. He was being friendly. Everybody just beats the heck out of this poor guy. He didn't do anything wrong.
Heather, that looked like a deep tissue massage to me more than hands on the shoulders.
I think it was well-intentioned, but it looked creepy. I think it was well-intentioned, and she looked uncomfortable, which made it even worse. So I'm a nay, although I hear what you're saying.
Wow, Jenny?
Yay. Because
was that a word?
That's a combo.
Okay,
because I agree, he's very grandfatherly, but the sweet nothing whisper in the ear is a little weird. But I think the funniest part is the territorial thing that goes on.
Agreed. And on that note, we leave you with my yay, he's Biden. I really expect this sort of thing to happen. Anyway, thank you all for joining us, panel. We appreciate it. Join us tomorrow night, 6 p.m. Eastern. We'll see you tomorrow night on The Daily Wrap.